All right, so what's good, y'all? This is episode 2 of Message to South Central, where I'm explaining the ebook that I created for my generation. You know, we're going through a lot emotionally, physically, environmentally. So this book is for you guys. And in the series, I'm basically just breaking down the chapters and explaining to you guys what's actually going on. So last episode, we ended this off on Destiny's Calling, right? And that's a question that a lot of people typically ask, how do you know if something's destiny? How do you know if you're in alignment? How do you know if you're doing the right thing? And this became so apparent to me when I had this kind of like paranormal experience, right? Now, people don't usually believe in paranormal things and etc. Sometimes they think you're just tripping, you're out of your mind, etc. But it was right after I got an onk put on me that same night. I was just bursting out in tears. I was seeing I literally the story's written in the book, you guys. I was looking into a portal and everything. It was actually very crazy. And in the process of, that interaction with Source, which in the moment I interpreted it as my grandmother, right? I was getting information. I was kind of like I was repenting in a way. I started crying, saying like I'm so sorry. I'm doing this. I'm living like this. Like there was a whole lot of regret, and shame. And I just kept hearing, let it go, move forward. And it's like I was getting instructions on things to do. And ever since that night when I was getting those instructions, which was very clear, my life started changing. I started losing friends. I started losing jobs, losing money. Relationship ended. Heartbreak happened. A lot of things really started to break down the moment I got in tune with my spirit. And that was because I created so many false attachments to things that wasn't necessarily true to me, that when I finally opened my eyes, things started to crumble because I wasn't living in the illusion that I created before. Yeah, it's pretty deep shit, y'all. And while I'm actually on this section too, I actually want to talk on things like voodoo and hoodoo and all this other type of stuff. When you're growing up in a religious household, that type of stuff is viewed as the devil. That type of stuff is viewed as demonic, and you're just going to set yourself up for failure, right? But if you were to actually go back to your roots, now, when I say your roots, I'm assuming that you have some type of melanin inside of you. Your ancestors were doing voodoo. They were cutting chickens off, cutting heads off chickens and all this other type of stuff because they didn't have a organized religion where you had to go to a church with a pastor talking in front of you for a couple hours every day. It was more like rituals. It was more like, hey, we're going to meet here. We're going to eat this food. It felt more like Thanksgiving. And the moment somebody starts going on these large ass rants about how ancestors is demonic and all this other type of stuff, I'm going to let you know that is a very clear sign that they're not in tune with their emotions. They're not in tune with who they were before they even got here. Because when you hear the word ancestor, that simply means the ones who came before you. Your late parents, your late grandparents, your late great grandparents, the ones who literally you came from, those are your ancestors. So to sit there and call your grandmother demonic, to sit there and call your great grandfather demonic, it's some crazy shit. But then we sit there and say, oh, we're gonna pray to this angel, we're gonna pray to Jesus, we're gonna do all of these different things that's not demonic. But praying to the people who came before you is demonic. That's some twisted, wicked shit, if you ask me. But you know, when we're brainwashed as a community to believe something is real and believe something is true, this is what we're going to get. A whole lot of people who are loud, proud, and wrong, unfortunately. Now, I'm not saying having faith is wrong, but I'm saying if you look like me, you need to do a little bit more research because it's not as black and white as they're making it seem. It's not all in that book, I promise you. And if you think it's all in that book, you're crazy. Okay, so chapter 10 in this book is basically talking about the lack of leadership. My community, my generation rather, in Los Angeles is lacking a whole lot of leadership qualities and foundations. And why is that, right? That's because every time somebody does try to, exert themselves and be a leader, something bad happens. They get ridiculed, it's just whatever the case may be. And if we need a couple examples, we can go down the list. The Kings, the Malcolm X's, the Nipseys, the Dr. Sebis. These things happen, and every single time we try to speak up, even the Charlie Kirk situation, even if you don't agree with what happened to him or you don't agree with, what he was saying, What actually happened was an act of rebellion from leadership. He was exhibiting leadership qualities and it was getting under people's skin. So that is very deep, especially in black communities when there's things like crab in a bucket, mentalities and everything else. So a lot of people, we have leaders, but they're just not using their voice. There's a lot of youth. There's a lot of these YNs out here that we think are just demons who are actually super duper smart. They could game you the hell up, but they don't say certain things because they know it's not going to be accepted. I gave my book to somebody that I know. I'm not going to say any names. And I didn't know that he was literally going to kill himself that day. And he came back to me about like a week or so later and told me, after he read my book, it changed everything. It made him second guess it. And this was after me not seeing him for close to like a year or something like that. He literally fell off and I ran into him randomly. If you were to try going solely off his appearance or what he looked like and how he talked, you would think that he didn't have the knowledge and you would think that he didn't have the perspective that he actually has. When you talk to this man, he has wisdom beyond this planet, but he doesn't say it. Why? Because he's around people who doesn't think that it's going to be accepted. If he says this, they're going to make it into a joke. If he does this, they're going to start making fun of him. So it's like, okay, I'm just not even going to say these type of things. But deep down, these YNs that we see crashing out and everything like that, they're going home and reading books. They're smart as hell. But their environment is sculpting them into ways to where it's counterproductive to what they're trying to achieve. And that's why we need more leaders in the community. We need more people who do it and show that it can actually be done. Look at my grandfather, for example. He has been a leader his whole life, and he's 85 years old. He's still okay. When we look back at our ancestors in specific, right? Those were leaders. They were living to upwards of hundreds of years old, right? Just sitting there passing down game, giving the, just teaching the youth, teaching the kin. All of that type of stuff is leadership. We had leaders in our community from the very beginning. The very beginning, but we lost touch to our roots. We lost touch to our ability to speak and spread the information that we're receiving. What's the point of receiving game and it stops at you? That's if everybody implemented that mentality, you wouldn't have got the game. So at some point, you have to give the game back because that's how this circle of evolution keeps growing. It's a constant, thing of give and take. You receive this information, pass it on to the next one, and they may not want to hear it, but sometimes you got to tell them what the real is. Just plant the seed and then let it grow. Oh, so chapter, I think this is 11, 12, right? Now, this one is talking about finding my purpose. And trauma was actually what revealed my purpose to me, like very clear. Now, I'm not going to say revealed my purpose to me, but it definitely did push me down a certain path. I remember I was working at Starbucks. I was working at a Starbucks on Crenshaw and Rosecrans at the time, right? And I was having to walk to work every single day. And, everything was fine and dandy. It's just like, damn, I really wish I had a car, but it is what it is. You just got to walk to work. So I remember this one day, I got a very big intuitive nudge to call off work. Something in my spirit was like, don't go. Every inch of my body was like, don't go to work. Please don't. So I ended up calling off, and my manager was kind of, like a little bit annoyed or whatever the case may be, because he's like, man, you got to have somebody fill in your schedule. But it's like, I really can't make it. Like, I just can't do it. Right. Later on that day, somebody got hurt really, really, really bad on live. And I don't want to get into details of, the situation, because I want that person's spirit, the situation, just nothing but good love, energy, and just, releasing the negativity. But something traumatic happened literally on the other side of the street. And when I saw it, I realized that it happened around the time of night that I would have been walking home. And it scared the living shit out of me. I'm not going to lie to you. Just knowing the climate of Los Angeles and knowing how things retaliate and people, it's just like, okay, I panicked in a sense. And what made me really, break down in a sense like that was because it was my demeanor at the time. I was, sagging my pants. I had braids coming out the bottom of my hats on backwards. I had just started getting tattoos and stuff like that. My demeanor was very LA-ish. How I was acting was LA-ish, regardless of the wisdom and the knowledge I knew I had internally. The environment was starting to sculpt my appearance, and that scared the shit out of me because I was like, man, I look like that boy. I look like these black boys, And you start realizing, like, okay, at least I started realizing, I was like, man, I don't even want to look like certain things. I don't even want to dress a certain way. I don't even want to have the idea come off that I could even possibly live, be around anything associated, connected to anything. It scared the living fuck out of me. So I remember I went home, and the best way that I can describe this scene was, in Boys in the Hood, when, oh boy, I think his name is Trey, came back home to his girl after he got pulled over by the cops, and he was just crying, and you can tell that he was in pain, he was hurt, but he was sad, but angry, like that is such a tough place to be in, where you feel the anger of like, what the fuck, why does this keep happening, or like, what's going on, like, why can't, like it feels like things is out of control, but you're so sad because you're getting crippled by the things that's happening around you in your environment. I went home crying to my mom, bursting out in tears. I was telling her, Mama, I can't do this no more. I'm quitting. I'm quitting my job. I'm not doing it no more. I was like, I just got accepted into this film school. I think that this could possibly be for me. I'm going all in. I'm not doing this. And my mom sat there. She listened. And she was kind of just like, I don't think that you quitting your job is a good idea. But something tells me you're going to do it anyways. And I understand. Like, she saw the amount of hurt that was on my face when I walked in, and a mother seeing her son break down like that due to the environment, simply just having to go outside. You're not even involved in anything. You just went outside and you were traumatized. Our parents understood that. My mama saw it, and she was like, just do what you got to do. And that very next day, I pissed my manager off even more. Nigga, I walked in there. That same night, I wrote up my, I guess, a 2-week notice, but it wasn't even a 2-week notice. It was I'm quitting today notice. I don't know what you got to do, but one of those type of things. You feel me? And I walked in the next day, was like, yeah, I'm not coming into my shift in a couple hours. I'll give you this note, to make this kind of like formal or something like that, just so you can have it in writing that I'm not coming. But yeah, you got to do what you got to do. And then my manager started blowing up my phone, and he was like, you got to call somebody to get your shift back. The way that you're quitting, you can never get hired at another Starbucks again. I'm just like, okay. Fuck it. If I wanted to be petty, I'd go to Coffee Bean. It's not that big of a deal to me, which is crazy because now I think I get Starbucks like every single day, which kind of became part of my routine, right? But that was like the trigger to where it was like, okay, I'm all in. I got to figure this out. If I fail in the process, I fail. But there's no way in hell I'm going to be working at jobs I don't want to work, being in environments I don't want to be in, and be risking my life at the same time. It feels like a lose-lose situation. I got to get the fuck out of here. And that's where my attention went. And I started just going all in on my creativity. I started doing music videos for my homies and stuff like that. I started taking pictures for artists and stuff. And then along the path, after I had started, just networking within, my immediate community, started working with my papa and stuff like that. And that's how that, manifested. But all of this really came from me gaming, me wanting to edit my Call of Duty videos, and then seeing a way out later on in life when the environment was like, okay, this is where you at. This is is the things that's happening. I had to make a conscious decision. Is me going to Starbucks ever going to get me out of here? No. Is me picking up this camera? Can this camera possibly get me out? Everything in me said yes, and I took the route. Now I struggled. I had adversities. Things just didn't flow easily. Right? There was a lot of lonely nights. There was a lot of crying. There was a lot of moments where I wanted to quit. Even recently, there's still moments where that happens. But I would always rather be on this side of the equation than knowing I'm wasting my life and risking it at the same time. Something got to give. Oh, now chapter 13 is so, it's a touchy subject for me because it's the duality of success. A lot of people see the progress. They see, we out here at these events, we popping out, we making money, we doing whatever, however it looks. But they don't see all the bad shit that's going to happen. They don't see the friends that start treating kind of weird because they feel like they should be where you're at, or they feel like they're working harder to be where you're at, and it's like an envy, is like a jealousy type of thing going on, or family members start pocket watching. All of these things are real things, or like you just see things start to fall. It's always been this process of give and take that a lot of people don't understand if you haven't went after something. Once you start going after a certain path, going after a certain goal, a certain trajectory, you realize you're losing a lot. And sometimes it comes down to habits. Sometimes you have to stop doing certain shit. Sometimes you have to think differently. Sometimes you have to go down different routes and take different, quest to achieve certain things. And if you didn't do that, you were going to stay stuck. And that process of letting go hurts like a bitch because it's always things that you had the deepest attachments to. But once you can learn that you're liberated and free and full in yourself without the attachments, when you start to create connections, they're not rooted in an unhealthy attachment style. They're rooted in security. I'm me and I will always be me. Now, what are we going to do? Because I'm me and you're you. What are we going to do? You know? Now, mindset is actually so important on this journey too, because I use this analogy a lot. And when I tell people, like, you can literally walk into your dream client, walk into your dream partnership, just randomly, just doing what you love, they think I'm crazy. But it's happened in my life. I've been listening to my intuition. I should probably be doing something else right now, but I want to go do this instead. So I'm about to go do what I really want to do. And then, yeah, responsibility, yeah, that sounds immature, but I'm about to push that to the side right now. I went to a Starbucks, walk in there, made a business deal, made a business partner, made some money, made some connections that made it where I didn't have to go back to handle the responsibility. The responsibility got handled by me doing what I want. But when I tell people this, they're like, no, grow up, be an adult. You need to you need to have your priorities straight. Nigga, I still have everything. I haven't lost shit. Clearly they're straight and I have only been doing what I want. Let's be real. God works in ways that you can't necessarily like explain or like put a a justification on it sometimes. If you're living in divine alignment to you and what you're supposed to be doing, you're gonna start noticing shit start working. I'm not saying you're not gonna get tested. You're not gonna have moments where it's like, hey, this is taking probably a little bit too long. But nigga, something's going to start working in your favor. If you're meant to have it, you're not gonna lose it. I want you to remember that. If you're meant to have it, you're not gonna lose it. My car. When I got my car, that was the most immature, irresponsible fucking decision I've ever made. I wasn't making no money from my entrepreneurial journeys at that point, and then signed myself up for a $700 a month fucking car note. Why would I do that? I don't know. But guess what? It made my ass get out there and start making more money so I could pay my car note because I wasn't about to lose that shit. You see, it's always the duality of it. I had to struggle. I wasn't ready, but I still did it. But if I was like, no, I'm just going to wait till I'm ready, I probably would have never been ready. See, a lot of things you just got to do when you just got to do before you feel ready. You just got to literally just jump off. Like, what do y'all say? Y'all got to jump off the porch. You just got to do the shit and then let whatever comes afterwards. But at least jump in the right shit. You get me? Telling y'all, man, start doing what you want. Do what you want. Live this life because you only have one life. How long are you going to do what you need before you get to actually do what you want? Because a lot of people in this life, the mass majority of people walking this planet is only doing what they need to survive. What happens when you get out of that? You got to figure out what you love. You got to figure out what life is actually about, what you were actually supposed to be doing. If you were to focus on that first, you escape this sooner. If you focus on this, you're going to be stuck in this for a cool minute until you start learning yourself. So I actually want to end this, journal entry, this book off with saying that Self Central has everything it needs, right? I'm talking about to the gangs. I'm talking about to the nerds. I'm talking about to the smart dudes. I'm talking about to the mess, like everything. When we look at all the elements that we have, we are spiritual leaders. We are spiritual warriors. We've been through so much. And we hold so much wisdom, we hold so much perspective that if all we were to do was united and alignment, it would change so much. It would change the whole dynamic. And hopefully we get to that point before our backs get pushed up against the wall. But our backs may eventually get pushed up against the wall. And when that does happen, we're going to see how strong we really were. We're going to see how much time we were actually wasting, focusing on each other and not the actual solution, not the actual big picture. But I have faith in us. I believe something's going to happen in due time. That's just going to wake us up. And we're going to realize how beautiful and full we were as Black people and Hispanics this whole time. So yeah, with that being said, I love y'all. This has been Jay. This has also been excerpts from my ebook, Message to South Central, which is down in the description. Make sure you guys go check that out. Make sure y'all give that a look. It's, some real deep shit, So yeah, I love y'all, and I'm gonna see you on the next video. Peace.